Hey everyone, before we get into this, I just want to give you a quick update on the last video we did. Part 2 and Part 3 are both being written right now. Part 2 will be out by next week at some point. I don't know exactly when, but we are working on it. And with that, let's just get into it. So, I figured that now would be a perfectly fine time to be out of character for a little bit. Just kind of break the illusion we set for the channel over the last month or so, because there's just something I want to talk about, kind of address. And it's involving Hollywood, the entertainment industry, on all fronts: music, film, comedy. Specifically for this video, there have been accusations of sexual harassment, sexual assault, rape in some cases, against tons and tons of prolific figures in all these industries. And it's really kind of taken the world by storm. Usually, I'm a very strong believer in innocent until proven guilty, but in a lot of ways, there's way too much smoke for there not to be a fire in this situation, and it's kind of changed the status quo in a way, because things like this happening were never a huge secret. They were always kind of leaked their way out into the public, but once the lid was officially blown off, it was just open season and almost like a purge. And a lot of people you never would have expected, like Kevin Spacey's, all ended up being, I read something about Sylvester Stallone just yesterday. So I don't think anyone's safe from this. And it's kind of shocking just how large a chunk of these industries are really taking part in such disgusting things like this. So, on the whole, I wasn't really surprised by any of this, just a little disappointed, but there is one case that really got to me, and that was involving Louis C.K. Now, for anyone that follows the comedy world, follows C.K.'s career specifically, you know accusations against him are nothing new. There was a piece Gawker ran a few years ago, I don't know how long exactly, so my timetable might be a little off, that's why I'm not giving any dates, but they ran a piece, an anonymous woman came forward to them and talked about a well-known comedian, well-respected in his community, that masturbated in front of her and others without consent. And based on descriptions and time periods given, a lot of people acknowledged that, if true, it's about Louis C.K. Now, my mentality was that it never really went anywhere, it was never really picked up by any major news outlets, so I kind of dismissed it as a rumor, or if not 100% false, but also not completely true, because if so, you would think that a wild accusation like that would have probably been a headline, and it wasn't. But my fear was realized not long ago, ever since this sex allegation trend in Hollywood picked up. The five plus rumors about Louis C.K. came back up. And instead of dismissing them or debunking them as I would have hoped, Louis C.K. wrote an address and confirmed all of them as fact. Now, I have been following these events closely, as in all of the stuff going on in Hollywood ever since Weinstein, the fallout since then, but this one really hit me, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Louis C.K. has probably been one of my biggest idols, honestly, in entertainment. What I want to do in the future, I very much want to be a screenwriter and a director. That's where my heart is. I love YouTube, but obviously everyone at some point wants to go on to bigger things. I would like to keep this going, but I don't know how it will go, how long it will, if it does. And that's been a dream of mine for countless years now. And Louis C.K.'s brand of humor, his style of comedy, even just the way he writes something like Louis, his show on FX, which is admittedly fantastic, has probably had one of the biggest influences on the way I write, the way I approach certain subjects. And it's a little hurtful to know that your hero's a monster. I can't defend anything he did, unfortunately. And it kind of makes you put yourself under the microscope as well, because if you analyze his comedy, a lot of it is very sex-based, and a lot of it has specific things to do with what he was accused of, masturbation. And you feel bad, like I do now, for laughing along. And if now you can track back his career and you can see the seeds of something a little more sinister than just telling jokes, which is unfortunate. And just like Jon Stewart said, could he have done more? There was signs clearly, but maybe it's our blindness as an audience and just thinking of them as jokes, not seeing that what he's been saying, what he's been even sneaking into his work, like his movie I Love You Daddy, which has very obvious sexual connotations, and the subject matter is very sexual in nature. How did nobody pick up on this? And it's just really upsetting to see such a massive figure in the industry fall like this, especially when he's been such a huge part of my life and such a huge influence on the way I do things and the way I approach what I want to write. How do I really bounce back from that? Because I can now not write in the style I usually do without my mind going back to all this and all these awful things he did. Because how can I remove that? It's part of the whole artist separated from the art argument that a lot bring up that I was very much on board with until all of these things started happening. I think it might have even gone back as far as Bill Cosby's when it really started to dawn on me that in situations as severe as this, it's really hard to keep that separation. Because now I think back to like Roman Polanski and Woody Allen and watch, something like Manhattan. It's about a man romancing an underage girl, and when you know what you know about Woody Allen, it stops being charming and becomes a little bit creepy. And now the same thing applies to Louis C.K. and his sex-driven humor. And it hurts to know what I know now. Obviously, I have nowhere near as much to complain about or to be hurt by as the people he victimized, and I'm sorry to them, because a lot of them were scared off from the comedy world completely because such a powerful figure in that world was wielding his power irresponsibly in his own words and did a lot of awful shit. So he, as much as he did for me, he took away from other people, and that's not forgivable. I can be upset all I want, but what he did to them is infinitely worse than what happened to me. And now it's just really been a bit of a time of self-reflection because I've laughed along his entire career. I've been on board, and now, in Sarah Silverman's words, can you love somebody who did something so terrible? Can I continue to revisit his work, and if he does try to come back, carry on watching his new stuff and feel the same as I always did, just pretend none of this ever happened? Because if I can, if anyone can, it's going to be really hard to get back to that point, because what he did was huge, and it was done to a lot of people. And if his apology over the phone to one of his victims is anything to go by, where he mixes her up with another case that wasn't reported in the news article on him, it might go even farther than what we know. And that's a huge thing to think about, because this is bad enough. I mean, 5 women over years of him being this huge and this famous, and it might go farther than that. And with the stuff we already know, he was just dropped from an HBO special. HBO took off his shows and old specials from their streaming. They cut all ties with him. I'm pretty sure FX did the same. Netflix is doing the same. And the Orchard, whatever. I don't care about pronunciation right now. The distributor for his movie, I Love You Daddy, just dropped distribution. They are not releasing it. So as of now, his movie is unreleased. And there's really, to my knowledge, no way to see it unless you went to the festivals it was featured at. So this is taking a huge financial toll on CK, and maybe even worse on his fans. obviously, other than the people he did this to, the worst impact has to be on his fans, who have to now question their support for someone they love so much, and they can't see what he had in store for them in the future, and his old work might be tainted for them like it is for me, which is really, really unfortunate and really hurtful, because it played such a huge role in my life, such a huge role in the way I want to create, in my pursuit of creation. I mean, hell, the project I'm working on right now outside of YouTube is a screenplay about a comedian character similar to him. So now I'm going to associate that with CK, and that's not something I ever wanted to happen. For something I'm creating to have some sort of negativity attached to it. And it's really, I think I've hit a roadblock right now, because I've been stuck in this rut of all of these people I've looked up to hiding such awful shit from everybody. How should I feel about that? It's not a good feeling at all. And it hurts a lot, because my hero, one of the people in the industry that really inspired me to do what I want to do and to pursue my own goals, are kind of pieces of garbage. And it makes me question what I saw in them in the first place, and if I'm part of the problem. Because now I don't know. And that's all I wanted to talk about. Just wanted to give my thoughts on that whole Louis C.K. situation specifically. And once again, part 2 of the 3-part video series will be up by next week. I don't know when specifically, but I'll try my best to keep you updated. My social media is down below. You can get updates from there. And until then, I will see you all next time, and thank you very much for watching. If the video is not up by next weekend, happy Thanksgiving.